Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Kosidlo. I'm a financial aid advisor at Eastern Michigan University, and we're proud to present to you What's Next, basically a guide to help our students and families navigate the financial aid waters, so to speak, as we gear up to the fall 2025 semester. We're going to keep it real simple. Just kind of before we start, this is a redo, more or less, for a session we hosted back in early April. I think it was April 10th. And we're providing this a recorded version so that we can share that for those who weren't able to attend or just wanted to have the information in their personal possession. So hopefully this recording helps. But we're just going to jump right into it, though. And what we're going to be talking about is just that, what's next and what you should be thinking about as we kind of gear up to the for the fall semester. What's on our agenda for this evening? We're just going to keep it real basic. We're going to take a look and dive deep into understanding your award offer letter. Hopefully many of you have received those in the mail after completing your FAFSA, and we're excited to provide that information to you. But we'll take a look at how to interpret that. Um, we'll also kind of take a look in more detail about what cost of attendance means, direct costs versus indirect costs, how to determine financial need, and all of that as it relates to cost of attendance. We're also going to talk about the my.emich portal, which is the official delivery mechanism for our students. It's basically a digital dashboard, which includes email and all that. We'll talk about the my.emich portal in more detail. Obviously, next steps, we're going to provide you a bullet pointed list of things that you should be thinking about, again, as we gear up to the start of the fall 2025 semester. Where to find help and get your questions answered. And we're not going to have a Q&A session because this is just a recorded event here. Anyways, we'll just kind of jump right into our content here. So the award offer letter, this is what it looks like. And again, hopefully many of you have received this already. It's going to have the student's name, and it's going to have a nice glossy insert of things, basically a checklist, the actual financial aid award offers, next steps, checklists of what students should be thinking about, and things of that nature. So again, this is what the inside of it will look like. It'll address the student. We named this one John Q, as a sample. Um, and this kind of has a checklist over on the side here about what students should really be doing, you know, before we be, before we start the semester, and things that they should be thinking about over the summer. And then on the right here is where we kind of get into the nitty gritty. What we do, like we like to present in our award offer letter, what direct costs are. And direct costs are just that. Those are the things that EMU is going to bill students and families for. Mandatory tuition and optional room and board. So if the student's living on campus with a meal plan, that'll be included up here. If the student is commuting, obviously they won't have that charge. But tuition, we have what we call block tuition at Eastern. And what that means is it's the same whether a student takes 12 credit hours or 16 credit hours. And we break it down by semester, as you see here, fall 2025 and winter 2026. And then it has the totals over here. I kind of like, in my experience as a financial aid advisor, having discussions with families, I kind of like to break it down per semester because EMU bills per semester, every semester versus the year. So it's kind of good to kind of get your head around what exactly your financial obligation will be to Eastern for any given semester. So as you see here for John Q over on the left, for fall 2025, 12 to 16 credit hours, we estimate that's going to run in the ballpark of about $8,300. The Board of Regents, they'll meet like sometime in mid-June to determine what our tuition and fees schedule is going to look like for the following year. But this is a pretty good estimate, at least a very good estimate in doing a preliminary kind of capture of what um, um, what the financial situation will look like once the bills go out. So 8,300, 8,299 for the fall semester for tuition and fees. This particular student is going to be living in a residence hall with a meal plan. This is based on double occupancies. So if a student chooses to have, a single room to themselves, then that's going to drive the cost up for housing and meal plan. But this particular student has direct cost of $15,409. And again, that's repeated for the winter semester, and then it shows the totals over here. So that's basically starting at the top, direct cost, what EMU is going to charge the student for. And then we go down to the what we call gift aid. Gift aid is aid that a student does not have to pay back. So it's basically free money. So scholarships and grants qualify as gift aid. So this particular student has a Pell Grant eligibility. You'll see that they're going to be receiving 29.90 per semester. That's based on full-time enrollment. If a student takes less credits than that, then that will prorate based on the student's number of credits that they have. And this student also has the Emerald Scholarship that requires at least 12 credit hours. So hopefully John Q is going to be enrolled full time, but he's going to be receiving the $8,000 Emerald Award, which breaks down to $4,000 per semester. So it's as simple as subtracting the total here, like this student per semester has $6,990. So you subtract that from the $15,409 of direct costs, bring that down, as you can see. So this student has a remaining estimated balance of $8,419. So how is John Q going to take care of the remaining balance? Well, he has a couple options. Our first thing that we present in the award offer letter is direct loan eligibility. Now, loans have to be repaid, obviously, but this shows that this particular student is eligible for up to $3,500 in a subsidized loan for the year and another $2,000 in unsubsidized loan funding. And that's typical of a dependent undergraduate student, a dependent freshman undergraduate student. That $3,500 subsidized breaks down to $1,750 per semester. So this student has total loan eligibility of $2,750 to help take care of that 6,900, excuse me, that $8,419 estimated remaining balance. So you can do the math there to kind of figure out where you're at. And then we also introduce the federal parent loan up to the student's cost of attendance. We're going to get into cost of attendance in just a moment in a little bit more detail. But we do offer the federal parent loan to kind of bring the student up to their total costs, estimated educational costs. Um, there's a difference between the Parent Plus loan and the federal direct student loans. The student loans, there's no credit check involved with those, whereas the federal parent loan, you do have to apply for that and have the credit worthiness to be able to take out that loan. If you're approved, then you can take out up to 79.17 per semester, or John Q can, up to 79.17 per semester. If the parent is not approved, then we have alternative loan options for the students where we may be able to award an additional amount up to $4,000 per year for that student. Don't want to kind of muddy the waters with too much information on that, but that's kind of like what we're looking at as far as like how to pay the remaining balance. And then we get into basically how to determine financial need. There's a very specific definition in the financial aid world for what need is. And simply put, it's estimated cost of attendance minus the student aid index, which is the magic number that the FAFSA determines. It's not a dollar amount, even though it has a dollar sign here. It's more of just that. It's an index to determine aid eligibility. So cost of attendance, that includes direct costs and indirect costs. And again, we have a slide that's going to explain that a little bit more. But obviously, if we go back to this prior slide, the direct costs are the mandatory items that EMU will be billing for come the start of the semester, or actually over the summer. But cost of attendance actually captures indirect costs as well, things such as transportation, personal expenses, other costs that are associated with a student receiving their education. And again, we'll get into that in just a moment. So this particular student, John Q, he has a financial need of $33,901 based on this scenario. So cost of attendance minus total scholarships and grants equals costs. So not to get too wordy about everything being presented here, but we just kind of throw that out there too, because a lot of people will get confused about this $35,314 figure when in fact that's not what they're going to be billed for in total on their e-bill. Then there's some more information about what the federal direct loan is, what the Parent Plus loan is, how it's dispersed to students, and things like that. So hopefully the award offer letter is going to provide a wealth of information to students and families to help make their decisions a little bit easier and to help navigate the financial aid waters. So cost of attendance, let's kind of discuss that again. Cost of attendance captures direct costs and indirect costs. So your direct costs, obviously tuition, mandatory fees, room and meal plan, those types of things. Indirect costs, those are things like books, personal expenses, transportation, cell phone bills, like all of that stuff. Like a student's going to be living, a lot of students will be living on campus and they still have like, and if they have a vehicle, they'll have car costs, gas, car maintenance. EMU, we don't bill for books, but a student obviously has to buy books and supplies for their classes, so that's included in there as well. And again, financial need determination, we already kind of discussed it, but cost of attendance minus the student aid index, that determines need. And when we talk about need, there are several need-based programs. So, for example, for a student to qualify for a subsidized loan, they have to demonstrate financial need. Federal work study is a need-based award. Obviously, the Pell Grant is the foundation for all need-based aid. So a student has to be high need to qualify for the federal Pell Grant, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and other different programs that are out there. So that's just a quick little lesson on what financial need is and what cost of attendance is. Okay. So moving forward, my.emich portal, this is, again, we call it the student's digital dashboard, so to speak. This is where they're going to be able to do all the functions a typical EMU student will need to do throughout their life as an Eagle. It's where they'll register for classes. They'll be able to monitor all of their financial aid activity, view their financial aid status, view requirements, etc. They'll be able to accept their loan offers there. And and a whole host of other things, financial aid related. It's also the official EMU email account, or it houses the official email account. Um, and that's how that's the official form of communicating with students is through the email, my.emich email account. So there's an expectation that students are monitoring their email and stuff like that. And also, if a student has a job on campus, there are different employee services through the my.emich portal that will help the student with all of that. Um, so this is kind of what it looks like. And, it may change over. I know that there's been some talk about this being refreshed and updated. So hopefully this is still pretty accurate. Either way, it's designed to be very intuitive for the student to get in there. But if you kind of look at like the big splash page here, they kind of sorted out using these different cards. So this particular example here, I think this may be mine. So it's actually has an employee dashboard where I can access all of my information. But the student, if they have work study, they'll be able to have access to those things as well. But we want to kind of concentrate on the financial aid and bill payment card, and that's kind of like pulled out over here so we can kind of dive deeper into what that looks like. But the financial aid section, you can view financial aid status, the status of the student's application, the FAFSA, obviously. And then it shows our email on here. And then it also has links to the student business services, the e-bill, and things like that. Um, so that's kind of what that looks like. And this particular section here is showing an example of a student who has outstanding requirements. A, a, a good portion of our students are selected for a process called verification, where we need to verify the accuracy of the FAFSA. So this particular student needs to submit a signed copy. This is obviously an old screenshot here, the 2020 amended tax return. Who needs that? But this would all be updated to reflect current requirements. So it's just an example, and then the student can click on this and get some information on what they would need to do and how they need to submit that. Okay, so that's the my.emich portal. And now next steps. Um, so basically, after submitting the FAFSA, what you want to do is accept your offer of admission through your EMU's admitted student portal. And this is all part of the admissions piece. Hopefully you've done that. Today is May 1st, the day that I'm recording this. So it's actually a decision day. So hopefully your student has already done this. If not, they can go to emich.edu /admit, and that's going to have like a link to their EMU admitted student portal. Any questions about that, you want to contact the Office of Admissions first year first year student admissions, and they'll be able to help you out with anything, any questions that you have regarding the admissions process. Um, so make sure you do that if you haven't. You also want to register for a SOAR orientation session. SOAR is basically where a student's going to sign up for their first set of classes. Families, parents, they're going to be able to sit through several different presentations regarding financial aid, housing. There will be someone from career services and academic advising, and also a resource fair where students and families will be able to get oriented with how things work at EMU. So um, one thing I want to mention, like as of now, until once the student is registered, we cannot share any specific information, financial aid, academic, billing, or otherwise with with a parent or um, in some cases like a guardian or whatever, unless there's a FERP on file. We'll talk about that in just a second. But basically, FERPA actually just let's just talk about it right now because it's like the next bullet point. But complete your FERPA, and what that is, the student will actually fill out a release. So they'll put the say, for example, a parent. They'll put the parent's name on there, and that allows us to share specific information with the student. But once they attend that SOAR orientation, they sign up for their first set of classes. That's when their information becomes um, protected and privileged. Um, so if you call and say, "Hey, do you have my student's FAFSA?" Even though you probably helped complete the FAFSA, we can't share that information to you unless the student specifically gives permission. So that's important. FERPA actually stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's been it was implicated decades ago, and it's something that we're we're required to protect. Okay, so that's FERPA. Students will also need to submit their final high school transcripts. They want to do this like once it's got to reflect a graduation date. Usually how they do that is through a website called Parchment. That's one of the main transcript delivery systems that are out there. You can contact admissions if you have any questions about that. But we cannot release any financial aid, be it state, institutional, or federal until we have a final high school transcript. So again, make sure it's official. We can't have like a paper copy. We can't take a copy of the high school diploma. They have to be final high school transcripts delivered through the Parchment system. So that's important as well. And again, there's an expectation that students are regularly monitoring their my.emich portal that we just talked about and their at emich.edu email. If we need to contact the student about anything relating to their financial aid, then we'll do it through email. Students have probably already received several emails from us, so just make sure students are checking that throughout the course of the summer, especially. Um, Again, there's going to be students who are going to have outstanding requirements. So we want students to submit anything that we ask of them, federal tax returns, dependent verification worksheets, the whole 9 yards. And then the student also wants to receive their Eagle One card and have that set up. And that's the official ID card of EMU for EMU students. And it does several things. Obviously, it's going to allow students to access their residence halls and meal plans. Um, it can also be used for discounts throughout the Washtenaw County area, Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor area. Um, and it also is the carrier and delivery system for any student refunds. And what a financial aid refund is, that's when financial aid exceeds what they owe on the bill. So basically, if they qualify for a refund, they'll use their EMU Eagle card to set up their refund preference. The card itself kind of functions like a typical US debit card with a Visa logo on it. So a student can have it go directly through Bank One, which will allow them to just kind of swipe their card to make purchases. Otherwise, if they prefer, if they have their own like checking or savings account, they can have their refund preference go through that way. Sometimes that refund can take a couple days of extra processing to get to the bank account of their choice, but it's generally not much longer than a day or two. Um, and then also set up the authorized user for eBill. Now, it's important to know that EMU will not send out any paper award letters, or excuse me, any paper bills. We don't send out a bill that you can open up the envelope and look at. It's all delivered electronically. So, and again, because FERPA is in effect, once the student is enrolled, we can't share that information with you, the parent, if you are a parent listening in or a guardian, unless the student gives you specific authorization. I know that sounds weird. Hey, I'm paying the bill. Why can't I have access to this? You can. The student just has to set you up as an authorized user, and it's a real quick and easy breezy process to do so. So there's that. For students that are eligible for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, they need to update their MISSG portal to include EMU as their school of choice. And again, that's pretty easy as well. But it's important to do. It's a nice chunk of change for a student to help with their bill. So they want to make sure that they do that. And these are all things that you should be doing, and you can do those as we gear up to the start of the fall semester. Don't wait until August to do it. Once we get into August, our office is incredibly busy. Um, and we get a lot of desperate students and families around that time trying to take care of things last minute, and we don't want our families and students to do that. So go ahead and make sure that you're monitoring your my.emich portal for all of that. Sliding into one of the last slides here, we have a couple slides left, but where to find help. We're a real accessible financial aid office, and we pride ourselves on that. You can find information online at emich.edu/finaid. That's where we update our website with all relevant announcements and processing times. We also have a chat bot, which you see here. It's powered by AI. So it's not going to be good to provide specific information about your account, but any general financial aid questions, it's pretty good at finding out an answer for you um, just by typing it in. So that's one way. We provide in-person assistance at Service EMU. That's located on the second floor of the EMU Student Center, room 268 to be specific. And their operating hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, and Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it's a great way to kind of get immediate assistance. And also, our phone line is answered by a team of very knowledgeable financial aid professionals, myself included. So 734-487-1048 is where you can call Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, we kind of experience high volume traffic as far as phone calls, like throughout the summer months, specifically once we get into end of mid-July through August. We're very busy, so let's try to get everything taken care of if we can prior to that time. That way you don't experience long wait times and things of that nature. And we're also available through email. If some students prefer to just throw a quick email our way, financial_aid@emich.edu. And again, that inbox is monitored by our advising staff. And we're pretty good at getting a reply out within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. Um, Now, where to find help? One thing I just want to kind of point out, student business services, a lot of people call financial aid to ask about the bill. They kind of do intersect, student business services and the Office of Financial Aid, but we're two separate autonomous offices. So any billing related issues you want to call 734-487-1219 or send an email to ebill@emich.edu. So questions about payment plans, late fees, heaven forbid if a student goes into collections, those types of things are answered by student business services. We can answer some general questions. We do have access to the billing screens and all of that, obviously, because again, they kind of cross over. But all billing related questions, detailed questions should be sent to the ebill@emich.edu. Records and registration, 487-4111. That's registrar@emich.edu. And then any questions about the Eagle One ID card, 487-3176. And that's also ebill@emich.edu. The Eagle One card kind of falls under the Student Business Services umbrella, so they'll also be able to assist with that. But Eagle card does have their own specific phone number there. One thing I just wanted to mention too about this Service EMU. Service EMU, it's not just it's not only a place where you can receive financial aid assistance, but they also handle all of these different departments as well. So if a student has any record related question or registration issues, they can go to Service EMU. There's a fully functioning full service Eagle One ID card office there, where they can issue temporary ID cards. You know, um, they can actually look at the access to different services. There they have all this equipment to do all that. So Service CMU is the place to go if you have any questions about financial aid, student business services, um, um, records and registration, or Eagle One card. All right, so that's all that we have for today, and hopefully this was informative for you. Again, if you have any other questions that we didn't cover today, you can give us a call 734-487-1048, and we'll be glad to assist you. And also visit our website emich.edu/finaid, and we do have a social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. So we look forward to our freshman class entering or joining our EMU family. Thank you for your time this evening and best of luck.